everyone? Dr. Brian here with H60 Lifestyle. I hope everyone's doing good. And I wanted to talk to you guys today. Well, I guess I wanted to talk to you guys today about a blue Honda. I hope you guys will relate to this and kind of find some of the humor in it. But I guarantee you're going to know what I'm talking about once we get into it and start unpacking this. Basically, the blue Honda theory. I got this from a guy. He was my coach and mentor, a Mr. Ed Milet. And if I got to say, if you guys haven't heard this guy or know anything about him, I encourage you, Google Ed Milet. He's a world-renowned speaker and business coach and, yada, yada, yada. I mean, he's pretty cool to listen to. And he has some good ideas, and they're really applicable. And I'm part of a couple of his groups and in his mentorship program and everything else. So I really invite you to listen to him. But he talked about a blue Honda. And when he first started mentioning it, I'm like, man, what's this guy talking about, But let me tell you, have you ever, I'm going to take it a little bit different approach than he did. But say you guys know what a vision board is, and you know what visioning what you want to manifest in your life. And, a vision board for some people is taking a board, and what they do is they cut out pictures of a car, a house, a boat, a yacht, a girlfriend, guy, a boyfriend, whatever, and they put them on the vision board, and every day they look at them, and they get them from their conscious into their subconscious, and, it's their vision board. Well, if you ever did a blue Honda, right, and you finally, you pick out one you want, and you've been saving money, and you've been working for it, then now the day has come, right? So you go down to the local Honda dealership, and you throw the cash down, and you get yourself that blue Honda, right? And it's got all the new smell to it, all the bells and whistles, and man, it's just this pretty sky blue Honda, and you're on cloud nine. You pull out of the parking lot, you get on the highway, you're starting to head back home. I'll be damned, there's another blue Honda. Huh. Go a mile down the road. Well, crap, there just went two going the other way. Same car. Then you pull in your neighborhood, and you're like, well, hell, there's one right down the street from me. All of a sudden, there's friggin' blue Hondas everywhere. So I got to ask you guys, did everybody just go buy a blue Honda all of a sudden the same week that you did? No. They've always been there. You just never noticed the things. So what happened? So he was talking about this, and I'm like, well, son of a bitch, my brother just bought last year, he just bought a red full-size Chevy Silverado, bright red truck. And, so I'm driving in my Jeep, and, I see him on the road, and I wave to him. We're passing the opposite direction. So now I'm consciously looking for this guy to go. Well, man, I'm like this little geek in a Jeep waving at everybody that they don't know who the hell I am because I'm seeing a red truck, and I want to be the first one to wave. Well, it's not him. It's some girl or some other dude in another truck. They're all over the place. Everyone has a red Chevy Silverado now. Even the people I go to the gym with and work out with that I didn't know what they drove, they got a red Chevy Silverado. I'm like, hey, Jim, how long you had that? Oh, 5 years. Really? Never noticed. Well, so what happened? Well, there's a thing in our brain coming from a physician's point of view, and I won't get too in depth, but there's a part of our brain called the RAS, which stands for the reticular activating system. So if you think of that as a filter, it filters out 90% of the stuff that we don't need, right? So those blue Hondas and those red Chevys, they didn't all of a sudden appear. They have been there. Our RAS was just filtering them out because it wasn't relevant to us at that time. It wasn't important to us. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more important, so they get a check mark. You can pass. You can pass the gate of the RAS. Okay. Well, now, hell, they're everywhere. So I've seen a lot of people lately that seem to be just really lucky. They just seem to have things fall in their lap. They just seem to have opportunities open up for them. Doors will open. People will come into their lives. Now, with this principle of the RAS, do you really think those doors just magically appeared? That those opportunities just magically appeared? Or that people all of a sudden found them? I can tell you No, they've always been there. We as a society, especially in our day and age with all the technological advances, we have opportunities abound. They are all around us. The problem is we are not seeing them. We're not trained to see them. It's not relevant. A couple reasons why. Number one, the majority of the people aren't focused on what they want. Okay? They have no idea what the hell they want. Ask the average person on the street, what are you doing in your free time? You go to work, and what do you do after that? 90% will watch Netflix, or they'll stay home, or they'll do things. Or they'll do things that's not working on what their vision or their dream is, or on their side hustle, okay? I'm telling you, if you want, try it. Go down the streets. Jim Rohn challenged a couple people to do it. Jim Rohn's an early motivational speaker. He has since passed, but he challenged some people to do this, and they found that 90%, that's what happened. So, with that being said, their RAS wasn't trained to be looking for opportunities, right? So imagine if all of a sudden you're wanting to open up a side business for dog grooming. Well, things are going to start showing up in your life if you're really focused on it and start doing things. Things will start showing up regarding dog grooming, dog parks, dog walkers, dog things. You'll see them on social media. You'll hear it on the radio. I mean, there's a lot of things that will start happening. A vet may call you and say, you know what? Hey, Cujo over here really needs a haircut. Is there anyone around? And you may be sitting at a table at a restaurant and you overhear this conversation. Things like this happen all the time when we open ourselves up. So I heard a great metaphor the other day, and this is what prompted this little recording here. One of the speakers that I was listening to said, the majority of the population, we're trained as youth to look at life through a headlight, like in a car, a headlight view. We see just enough in front of us, and we see just far out and just to our periphery a certain viewpoint. That's it. The rest we don't care about. We just want to know what's right in front of us, okay? That's a headlight viewpoint. And we're trained by society, by schools, by our peers, everything else for that. And that is our direct conscious viewpoint. That's what we're focused on. If you think of a floodlight, now the floodlight I'm talking about, just think of you're driving down the road and you see these big houses and they have these lights in the ground shining up in the trees at nighttime, right? That's a floodlight. They shine light all over the place. So we're trained to have a headlight mentality. So we're only going to see opportunities and things that come into our headlights, okay? The floodlight mentality, which is more of our subconscious, which is, think of a real world RAS, reticular activating system, sees everything, but it always doesn't get into our headlight viewpoint because it's irrelevant to us. So the trick is to try to break free of a headlight-only mentality and adapt to an overall floodlight mentality. And then when you find something that triggers you or wants to move you in that direction, right, then you shine your headlight on it and focus and dial in it. Majority of the people can't do this. And we all have this capability, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. The speaker had a great point when he said, imagine you're driving down the road in a car and your boyfriend or girlfriend or just a buddy sitting beside you. You're able to drive this car with all this 4,000 pounds of twisted steel that's going down the road at 60 miles an hour, watching other cars, watching the road, watching weather, watching that stuff don't jump out in front of you. You're able to do all of this and carry on a conversation with the person in the seat next to you. Now, that is using a floodlight mentality combined with a focused mentality. Your floodlight mentality is operating the car and watching the whole scene, and you're going down the road. The headlight mentality is focusing on your friend. Now, obviously, if a rabbit runs out in front of you, you're going to focus your headlight on that real quick, right? That's what I'm talking about. If we can start training ourselves to look at things through a floodlight mentality. Then when something pops on that radar, we shine our headlights on it. We're going to see a lot of opportunities and a lot of open doors that we didn't see before. They were always there, but now we're starting to see them. The successful people that I've been around, have been coached by, and listened to, they have adapted this type of ability, okay? So, great. How the hell do we do it? What's some tips on how to do it? Well, here's what I've learned, and here's what a lot of them have said. And I've been trying one of them in particular for about almost 4 weeks now, and it's working pretty good. So, one of the things that I've always liked is if you're going to try a new mindset, you're going to try to improve yourself or change or think out of the box, is throughout the day. We all have our routines, right? What do they say? We do an average of 80,000 plus thoughts a day, and 90% of them are just repeats of the day before and the day before and the month before and a year before. We're really not advancing too much in our thought process. The average person, right? Now, to retrain ourselves to get different thoughts, we have to have a pattern interrupt. Otherwise, we're just going to be following that same old pattern. One of the best ways and easiest ways is that I've found is throughout the day, no matter what you're doing, have your phone or your smartphone or your watch or something beep or vibrate to get your attention, to focus your headlight on it. When that goes, take a moment and just say, what the hell was I thinking about? Was I thinking the same thoughts that I've had the day before? Was I creating events in my mind that have yet to happen? Was I creating a false sense of reality that's not conducive to my goals? Start doing this. And then when you identify, the first thing is identifying. Then the second thing is correcting it. So once you get in the habit of identifying this, you don't have to do the stopwatch thing or the phone thing for, forever. Just do it for a couple of weeks. Do 30 days max. Then you'll automatically have a habit of whenever you start thinking something that's not conducive or you're doing a repeat pattern, it will trigger something in you innate, and you'll catch it automatically. That's the first step. Then the second step is to start replacing that with things that are moving the needle toward your goals, that are not repeating the same thought patterns that you've had days and months. That's more of the hard part, is to be doing that. The identification part, it's like Pavlov's dog. We can train ourselves on that. Just get a response trigger and trigger it. Then you got to actively train yourself to think otherwise. But once you start doing that, then it becomes second nature. You start triggering it, right? Now, that's one way to start doing things to move to a more open field, okay? And to not keep repeating the patterns. Now, another way that I've heard, and one of my early mentors, Dr. Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer, he has passed, and he used to love tapping. So he used to say, when you're in this heightened state of arousal, when you're in this area where you kind of see things and you're open and you're in the flow. He called it, when he would meditate, he would call it also being in the gap. The gap, if you've ever tried meditation, it seems like your brain has monkey mind and you have thought after thought after thought after thought. But that gap in between each thought is the fertile ground where things grow. And you want to be in that gap and stay in that gap as long as possible, so while you're in that gap. So one of the things that he used to do was tap. It's called tapping. He'd find certain areas on his body and he would just tap as he's in there. Sometimes he would, and I've heard other authors and other people talk about surrounding themselves with, if they want to increase their money flow, they'll surround themselves with money falling on them, or a river of money, and when they're right in the middle of it, they get very, very in tune with it. They'll picture the texture of money running through their hands, the smell of money, hearing coins. They'll have their heart start beating, and then when they're in that feeling, all the sensories going, then they start tapping. They'll tap their arm, they'll tap side of their head, whatever. They'll start tapping. They'll combine a mental image of it with a physical response. They make that connection. They're doing an ether, bringing it into reality by the tapping. Then later on, all they got to do after a while of doing this, a couple dozen times, all they got to do is just tap that spot, and it triggers that feeling, that reaction. Let me give you an example. This was in a course I took 10 years ago. They gave an example. if a person was working behind a counter at a store and a robber came in and he held a gun at their face, they were going to rob them. And at that same time, a siren from a fire engine went by, really loud, went by. And the robber got nervous and hit the clerk in the side of the head. Well, 10 years later, every time the clerk hears a siren, he gets a little pain in the side of his head. Okay, that's an engram that got implanted. Okay, so this is the same way with the tapping. When you're in that moment, when you're slaying that dragon, you're feeling those emotions, you're at the peak of that, tap. Bring something from that emotional ether into the physical by tapping your physical body. Then all you got to do, drive, sitting at a red light, drive down a road, in a meeting, tap that area. It will bring those emotions back. And the more you do that, the more reality that is, you start envisioning. That is another method. Another method that Ed Milet talked about on our conference call. It was very interesting. I haven't heard of this, but it falls in line with all this other stuff, and this is what I've been doing the last 3 weeks or so, is physical exercise. Whether you're a jogger or a fast walker, but something physical, weightlifter, you do CrossFit, all those things. I do a combination of cardio, HIIT training, CrossFit, weightlifting, a little bit of everything. I'm one of the crazy ones in the gym that everybody kind of points at, like this guy's going to have a heart attack if he doesn't slow down on this stuff. But that's just my personality, the way I go. So when I'm in the middle of a routine and I'm just cranking out bench press or squats, or I'm running stairs, doing lung burners, I'll use that as my physical, and I'll start thinking about the vision that I want to come true. Multiple houses, multiple businesses, a certain level of income, certain number of clients and customers, and hits on the website. I'll start thinking on those things at the peak of the exercise. And I go to the gym 6 days a week, and I'm pretty intense when I go. So I have some great opportunities to apply this methodology. Not to mention, I also do tapping. So if I'm sitting at a red light, I'll just kind of tap a little bit. People think I'm swatting mosquitoes or doing something, but what the hell, right? Everyone's entitled to their own opinions. But those things really do work, and they bring things from the ether into the reality. So I wanted to share those things with you about, I guess you'd call it about manifesting and doing things and moving forward. So again, to wrap up, I encourage you, if you haven't yet, to look up Ed Milet. Listen to his podcast. Listen to some of his teachings and interviews. You can pick up little nuggets. And, my thought process is, hey, apply them. See if it works. If it helps you and your personality and your goals, make it yours, right? If it doesn't, drop it like a hot potato and go on to something else and add another thing. Find what works. So those two things really work for me, or those three things that I talked about really work with me. So again, sum up, try to start adapting to the floodlight vision, because the opportunities are already there. The doors are already open. You just got to be able to see it. And when you find something, then you shine the headlight on it and you focus in on it. Okay? All right, that's all I got for you. I wanted to keep this short and sweet and just basically share with you what I'm actually practicing and learning right now. And it's some really cool stuff. And as we go through these episodes and I'm learning new stuff, I'll share with you guys. I figure that's what we're all here for, right? All right, guys, this is another episode of H60 Lifestyle. Hope you enjoyed. Share it with your friends, and we don't have a fee. We never charge for this. I probably never will. Just the only fee we have is share it. If you got something out of it, share it, And if you like us to talk about a certain subject, give us a shout out, okay? All right, take care. Dr. Brian, wishing you well, and God bless, and have a great rest of the week.